Tough one tonight. I guess today and tonight. It's probably the longest football game I've ever been a part of. I think first and foremost, I look at the score at the end, and you kind of look at that. I got to reflect a little bit about how I felt like our team played. I was really proud of our guys' fight tonight. We clawed back to 10 points before the next delay, and we needed to get a stop. We needed to move the ball downfield and score, and in that I think we took over right around 9 minutes. It just kind of the dam broke a little bit. But I think this is it just starts off where we talked all week. You're playing a top 10 team in the country. They're very good. We knew they were very good. And you just can't make self-inflicted mistakes. I think the block punt, the mishandling of a punt, that's converted to 14 points right there. You could say early on that was a big difference in it. We kind of had a lead. We had, and you just can't do that against good football teams. You really can't. Most of the time the analytics or stats don't support you winning if you get a field goal or a punt blocked. Anyway, and we had two mishaps on that deal. So we got to get back to the drawing board on that. We got to get a good snap. We got to get better, get our timing a little bit better, and execution better on that. We moved the ball well. Defensively, that was a big back. We give him a lot of credit. He's a big back, runs hard, and we just didn't tackle well tonight too. I think that's the one thing we're going to see on film. We've been tackling well as a team. Defense the last couple weeks, we didn't tackle well. I think our guys already acknowledged that, when we got in the locker room. And all these things are fixable, and, we're sitting 2-1 in conference, and so when we look at, we're not in a driver's seat, but, we're in a situation where, this isn't an end-all be-all when it comes to being in the race in the conference. Obviously, we want to take one game at a time, but, so just disappointed to lose, and kind of disappointed to lose that way. I just felt like, we just didn't execute, but we'll haven't had a chance to look at the film. Things aren't always going to be as bad as they seem and good as they are, and the score probably wasn't as indicative of what I thought how we played. I actually think we if we don't kill ourselves on a couple, gave up 14 points. We're kind of in this thing. So just kind of the dam broke at the end. So with that, I'll take questions.
Coach, I sort of thought the same thing. It's a 10-point game coming out of the second delay, and you get the stop that you needed. The game was so defined at that point, and that was such a weird feeling to be a part of it on the broadcast. I guess my first question I want to ask you is, I know you've been around the block. This isn't your first rodeo. You've been a part of a game like that. I've seen delays. I remember we had the Western Illinois game a couple years ago that was also turned out to be a wacky finish, and that one with your guys coming back, I think 21 down to get the win in that one. But I think it was 6 hours about that you were time elapsed between first whistle to last whistle. Have you ever been in a situation like this before?
Well, it's been years ago. Like 1999 or 2000, I think, when I was at Northern Colorado against Mankato. I remember we were talking about in the locker room. It's probably the last time I've seen an in the game delay like that. We've seen the Western Illinois. We've had a couple later starts because of weather, but I think to have those big delays, and it happened. That what I told the guys is whatever team handles that adversity the most, with the weather, with the rain, with the delays. You got to handle that adversity. I don't know if the delays had a lot to do with the last 9 minutes of that game. We didn't tackle. Guy got through and kind of busted the game open. And then of course we're going to try to, they have nothing to lose. They throw a bomb on fourth down, and the kid made a good catch. So, touchdown late in the game. So, it's just, it's been a long time like that. But it happened to both teams. We got to handle that. We came right out of the first one, went down and scored, second play, and I thought guys handled that well. And then, but I don't think that had a lot to do with kind of how this thing ended.
Talking about the delay, it's interesting because it breaks from your normal mode of thinking with just the amount of time that you have. Obviously, the kids are doing their thing, trying to stay loose and try to keep that razor sharp mental focus. Is it almost? I'm interested to hear kind of your take on it, because were you looking with all the time? Hey, do we want to maybe make some adjustments or try to attack trouble trying to outthink the room on that? What's your kind of take on that?
No, we talked a lot about and the adjustments defensively that we made were the right ones during those times. I mean, we went back and were able to really kind of watch what we seen at that point. We were coaching during that time. We were letting the guys kind of sit, relax, and then we would. But we were adjusting. We were trying to fix issues and stuff. Took advantage of that. And to be honest with you, if we just tackle on that last touchdown run, we get the ball back. It's a different deal. But we just didn't get the guy to the ground. And those adjustments we made were working. It's just there's adjustments and then there's just tackling. And we just didn't tackle well tonight.
Yeah, I thought it was a similar case. This has been a pretty good tackling defense this year against two FBS opponents. There's missed tackles. It's going to happen. It did feel like it happened more tonight, and then the two mishaps on the punt. Obviously you have to handle the weather, and you talked about that. What do you attribute, though? There's obviously a balance. Probably you don't have the mistakes on punt if it is a normal weather game. So how hard do you kind of hit that coaching or the tackling because it's so slick out there?
Well, we prepped for it. We spent all week with wet balls and we handled, I don't think that, we played a similar game last year and came out on top and we played, I think, when you're tackling a big back like that, and I think we're going to see on film, we probably had more guys trying to go for the football on that last one, trying to get a strip. Usually that's what happens when you have everybody around a pile and everybody's probably trying to get the ball out and the kid slipped through and went. I think, I don't know, I don't know that weather, just because I have been a part of a lot of rain games where I don't feel like that really had a lot to do with anything. Usually it's the mishandling of balls and things like that. The snap, I think the snap was good. I think AJ, it could have had something to do with the ball being slick, zipping back there that fast, and then, the block punt wasn't a great snap, and he's got to get his timing quicker. That didn't really have anything to do with the wet ball on that deal.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I thought it was great to see Darren come back. I know we talked a lot about how this team's been getting healthier and healthier, and you're building towards the end of the season where you want to be playing your best football. And he had a really big game in the box score after having some good blocking efforts. Senior team captain. Talk to his effort the last couple weeks and how he's led you through the start of conference season.
Yeah, he's been a great leader for us. On the field, off the field. Darren, he battles through injury. He's been playing early in the season with a broken bone in his wrist, and had one of the long. I think on the screenplay has a tremendous block downfield.
So good.
Even on his touchdown, Rico's block for Darren to score. I think that's something we've been challenging Rico a little bit.
Be proud of us. We called them both out.
Yeah, awesome. It's one of those things where like I said, we're going to watch this film, and there's just so many positive things that happen in this game today. And that's what hurts a little bit is, I feel like that's a team we can beat if we don't beat ourselves. And I don't mean to take any credit away from them because that's a really good team. There's no doubt. I think they're, I think they're very good. But I think we helped their cause a little bit with some self-inflicted. That's what stings a little bit about this. You just can't make those mistakes against good football teams.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about kind of the battle on the line of scrimmage. Now, this is a team that you were facing that's been excellent. They were first in categories on both sides of the ball, rushing offense and rushing defense, but they really kind of carried that into this week. It really is kind of amazing. Speaks to, I think, the athleticism you guys have and Nate's ability to make plays once the structure of the pocket is broken down with the special teams mistakes that you're right in the ball game, 6-7 minutes to go there at the end, but in terms of kind of maintaining that balance, and obviously you had the injuries to the offensive line first game, how do you establish that a little bit more moving forward as you get into Halloween and November?
As far as establishing,
as far as kind of establishing a little bit more balance in terms of the ground game in the past.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, well, yeah, and we're going to be facing we're facing some we got good teams still on. This isn't going to get easier. I mean, and there's physical defensive lines. I mean, I think, you know, that defensive line, we didn't really want to abandon the run game, knowing we did know this was going to be a challenge with what they do. They move a lot. They're big. They're a big defensive line. You know, and we want to keep working on our run game, because that's got to be such a big part of our offense. I thought, you know, because, you know, in the past game, I thought Nate played really well tonight.
Yeah,
I mean,
me too.
you know, unfortunately, I think there's some drops that we had that typically don't get dropped. You know, that could have something to do with the wet ball. You know, they're not easy catches, but usually those get made. You know, and so, and there was some times where we kind of had some little flashes in the run game. You know, we wanted to run Nate a little bit more with what they were doing and how hard they were pinching. But we have to, you know, we have to get better in our run game. I mean, that's just something that we got to emphasize this week, because, you know, Gardner-Webb's going to be is a big physical team too. And it's not going to get easier, you know, just after this. So we've got to stay committed to being a run. We got good running backs, two good running backs that can do it, and we got to stay committed to it.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.